Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and this is another one of my Living Consciously videos. I'm going to continue on the same theme that I started with last week, soul development. And one of the things that you want to take into account in soul development is the fact that your soul has had many opportunities to grow, to experience every facet of an issue that you choose to experience. Everything is choice. Everything is guided by an oversoul that takes care of the growth of the different souls that split into different personalities. I'm not going to go into those yet, only because I was hoping to get a brochure made up, manuscript, something that I could show you. But instead, today I'm going to concentrate on past lives. Today, I know that I was raised Polish Catholic, and their whole deal is you get one shot, you get one lifetime. You either get it right or you don't, and if you don't get it right, you're you suffer internal condemnation. And I can remember my son once asking me um, something to the effect of, "Mom, why would you even agree to come here since you saw got like a movie screen of your past lives of each lifetime before you come here? Why would you even agree to come here if it meant eternal damnation?" And then I took that one step further, and I thought to myself, I'm a mother. And why would I even bring a child into this world if I knew that for all eternity, his soul would be condemned to eternal punishment? And then I took that another step further and I said, why would a God even want creations that were punished for all eternity? That started to make no sense to me. And I when I read the first book that introduced me to the concept of reincarnation, I had heard about it, didn't pay much attention to it, but the first book that introduced me to it in a very big way was Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And I know when I saw him in person, he did say that he held on to that book for 10 years because at the time when he was writing it, he was the president of the American Psychiatric Association and he had a reputation to protect. Um, so I knew myself, oh my God, why, you know, if he held on to a book for 10 years, I could understand my own reluctance to release my spiritual writings because I felt I had a reputation to protect. I was a real estate broker. I sold the earth and I was very level headed. I was very grounded. Um, and all of a sudden, I'm into all this spiritual stuff that is just at times driving me crazy. So, anyway, but once I read the book, it just made more sense to me. And once it made more sense to me, then it's just started to help me open up into other experiences. And I recognize that you can retrieve a memory from a past life, sometimes just by being in a place where you had lived before. And because I can remember going to Chester, England. This is kind of in the northern part of England, Beautiful town, absolutely beautiful, filled with uh, the what they call the English Tudor, the half timbers against the black brown half timbers against a white stucco. Just absolutely exquisite. I fell in love with that town, and I can remember walking through it and I feeling so happy. And I kept thinking, why am I so happy here? And it was only many years later where I discovered that one of my past lives was as a dressmaker and an embellisher of hats. I would decorate the hats and had a very wealthy clientele. Not a very extravagant lifetime. Certainly, I was part of the working class, but a very, very happy one. And the irony to that story is that when I was in the eighth grade, my mother became, I'm sorry, senior in high school, my mother became pregnant and she had a brand new sewing machine that she had purchased. And I had been sewing on her uh, push pedal Singer sewing machine for years. But now she had this brand new one and she had free lessons and she didn't feel like she could take them. So I took them and I made a suit with French buttonholes and very fancy tailoring. And so, and I remember feeling so happy when I did that. And I had a natural inclination for decorating, for making things pretty. And I credit that particular lifetime with that. Um, the I can assure you, no matter what your religions tell you, no matter what your friends tell you, what your parents tell you, you've been here before, you'll come here again. It's as simple as that. You don't get one shot at this lifetime, and that's it. So, uh, recently, I think it was within this past week, within a week, I read a story. It was the lead story in the Washington Post, and it was in the style section, and it was on about a 2-year-old who, between age 2 and age 3, how she would talk to her parents about, I I I was called Nana, and I can't remember. I can remember Nana as being the name she referred to, but she had an entirely different name. Let's just call her, for the sake of the fact that I live in Virginia. Let's call her Virginia. So, but she kept referring, and she was very, very clear about what she did, and it was very obvious to her, to her parents, that she had lived during the Holocaust. And the first thing that they um, where they absolutely identified that was the fact that on her arm, she said, "On Nana's arm are numbers," and that makes her feel very sad. And then she talked about how her parents were gone. She didn't have her parents with her. And there was one time she went into the kitchen and there was something on the stove. It could have been uh, something was screeching in the house. And she started to scream and she said, "Get that tank out of here." And as a 2-year old, they didn't even know. Her parents tried to figure out, well, how did she know the word tank? There were so many clues that they had, um, that this was a complete recall of a past life. And what I learned from this story is that the children who are coming, who are recalling their past lives in detail, usually by age 5, it starts to slow down, and usually by age 7, they lose the recall completely. I feel that um, I've never experienced this with a child or a grandchild, but I do absolutely, I would absolutely believe what a 2-year old, a 3-year old, a 4-year old, 5-year old was telling me if they were talking about a past life. I would never, ever think that this was just a product of their imagination. I would absolutely go along with it. One of the things that was a question in last week was, are pets part of your soul journey? And I can assure you that from everything that I have read, everything I've studied, is absolutely that pets will be there to greet you. In fact, they will probably be the first ones to greet you when you cross over. And so, and I talked to one gal and she wanted communication from her pets. So, or certain ones. And then she had to go through her memory and she said, but I've had so many. At any given time, she might have seven uh, dogs. And that's a lot. So, considering that typically they live to 12 to 14 years, I had always thought a dog lived to 20 years uh, because my very dear friends had a little mutt that followed them and adopted them, and they adopted it, and she lived to 20 years of age with them, and she was full grown when they met her. So she wasn't. Uh, I don't. I think she at the vet might have guessed somewhere between 1 and 2 years of age. So she was over 20 years. So I just presumed that all dogs lived to that, and was absolutely shocked when our first corgi, um, Taffy Jones, got sick and had to be euthanized at 12 and a half years of age. Second batch, Samson and Delilah, one lived to 12 and a half, one lived to 13 and a half, and everything. But every once in a while, I'll get a very strong feeling of their presence around me. And just very, very strong. And of course, we think of them very, very fondly. But yes, pets will continue being in your life. Um, so, getting back to the past lives of yourself, past lives can sometimes help explain phobias. They might help explain preferences or aversions or why you instantly feel like you love someone or instantly feel like you hate someone. And if I know when I was newly married, uh, with my first husband, we worked at a camp called Camp Husky in Pennsylvania, and I was in the front office, and the gal who was the accountant for the camp, for whatever reason, despised me. Not sure what that was all about. At that point, I didn't have a clue of any past lives. But all I can presume is that I must have had a very contentious relationship with her because it didn't matter what I said, what I did, how I tried to befriend her, how I tried to stay out of her way. She couldn't stand me. And I was 21, and this innocent little person, um, that thought the world was just a very friendly place, and discovered, not always. Uh, Recently, I had a client who absolutely could not understand why he couldn't lose weight. He said, I don't eat, I am just practically don't eat anything, and yet I'm 100 pounds overweight. And it just made no sense to him until I looked. And as I'm talking to him, an image, as I'm listening to him, I should say, an image forms in my head. And I see him sitting in a dungeon, starving to death. So, what I took from that scene was the fact that his body retained the memory. And I also felt that wasn't the only lifetime that he starved to death. So, his body retained the memory of the fact that food was just so precious and that there was never going to be enough of it. So his body tended to hoard every morsel of food that went into his body. So it's like not every story is the same. Sometimes there's a past life reason for you to experience what you're experiencing. Um, and let's see what else I wanted uh, to share with you. Another time, a woman came to me. This is quite a few years ago, and she wanted. She had an adult son. She couldn't understand his vitality, his vitalness, his angry outbursts, his and then as I'm listening to her, she said from the time he was 3 years old, he would carry a like a rubber knife in his back pocket and wouldn't go anywhere without that rubber knife. And and always there was this sense of hatred and the sense of that he was being hunted alive, and that he always had to protect himself and just, you know, she absolutely couldn't understand that. When I got his name and I looked energetically into him and then a past life surfaced for him in the jungles of Vietnam. And but the irony was to this story is that I was given a name. Usually, I'm not given any names of past lives at all. In this case, I was given a name of who he was and the fact that he was a graduate of one of the military institutes. He had gone over as an officer. And so he was very valiant, very, very caring, but didn't survive. Only survived a very short time before he and his whole platoon was ambushed and killed in the jungle. And so to continue this further, because I was given his first name and the year that he graduated, the mother went into one of the military, I can't remember which military academy she went into the yearbook of that um, uh, year and counted out, looked at the pictures of the person with the same first name that I was given. And she said, of the four pictures of the that she found, one of them, she said, looked like the spitting image of her son as a young person. So she felt very strongly that she had been able to pinpoint who it was that was the past life of her child. And I don't know if it gave her any relief at all because the as a young man, he was going through tremendous anxiety, tremendous nightmares, uh, always feeling, like he had to be on the defensive. So that past life really, very heavily encroached on his current life. Um, in my book, I talk about two past lives. One of them, which I experienced with my brother, and well, actually, I think I cover both of them. They were both experienced with my brother. One time when he and I was a naval officer, felt to me like a British ship, and he was one of the crewmen, and he accused me of stealing money from him. And in the process of the accusation, he also killed me and threw me overboard. And I saw this is during a regression, and I saw myself floating in the water. I wasn't afraid to die, but I can remember feeling very, very poorly about my brother, and just feeling like, oh my God, uh, this was totally unjust. And so in that lifetime, he killed me because he felt that I had done him wrong. In another lifetime, I was in I guess I had a very wealthy lifestyle, and it was a homosexual lifestyle. And he was just part of a whole group of young men that I entertained and kept. But he wanted a monogamous relationship, and I wouldn't give it to him. So then he passed away very early, more or less from a broken heart, because he couldn't get what he wanted from me. So those are just two lifetimes where we kind of switched roles. I died because of him, he died because of me. And even though I didn't kill him in the lifetime where I saw uh, the homosexual enterprise, in my actions and everything, and the fact that he couldn't accept what it was that, uh, or that I wouldn't give him exactly what he wanted. So, anyway, so that led to his death. Uh, I think, let's see, phobias. If you have a phobia that is unexplained, ask your guides to give you the source of that phobia. Doesn't matter what it is. We can be, um, geez, I don't know all the names, but I watch Jeopardy, and every once in a while they have a category on phobias, and it's absolutely amazing what you can be afraid of. One of the things recently that I had was colors. There are some people that are have a phobia about certain colors, so that kind of astonished me. But ask your guides to give you information on where that started, why it started, what were the circumstances, and also ask to have memory of the dream or however you're going to be given the information, whether you're given it in a vision, whether you're given it in meditation, whether you're given it in a dream. Ask to be able to remember it so you can keep track of it. If you aren't journaling, I strongly recommend that you journal, because this is the way that you kind of keep track of where you are on your journey. Um, Preferences. So many people have things, especially food products, that they say, I can't stand mushrooms. Well, did you ever try one? No, but I know I can't stand them. Chances are they might have accidentally picked a mushroom There is one called the angel of death. That's the actual name of the mushroom, and that will bring death within minutes of ingesting it. And so you never know uh, that where the cause is, but chances are that that was very, very um, clear. It'll become very clear to you when you do ask this. The only thing that I can tell you further, or I should say, one of the things I can tell you further that I can that this I had to really clarify this for one of my clients because she was being badgered by the ancestors that she was communicating with in spirit. And she felt like she was being manipulated. And even before she used that term, I asked her, did your mother manipulate you in your lifetime? And she goes, yes. And everything that had happened recently to her had smacked of manipulation. So, the thing I want to share with you is you do take it with you. You do take attitudes, emotions, preferences, aversions, phobias, places of pain. You do take that with you. Some have, I know, have had like what they call a miasm. A miasm is where the entire family has uh, places in their ancestry where the same behavior shows up continuously. Could be alcoholism, could be sexual deviation, could be sexual abuse, could be anger issues. So that those issues could run in families. So please know that if when you are up against something that no longer works in your life, clear it. As long as you can identify it, as long as you can bring it to the surface, you can clear it. It's when you don't know that it exists. That's the hard part and everything. So I think, yeah, it's a little over time, but 1:28. So I am going to leave you now, but just did want to remind you that my book, Own Your Power, is the best book on the market for meditations. My website, Alicia, ALICJA, Jones.com, in case you want any additional services. And I thank you for being here. And if you have any questions, like I said, leave them in the chat and I'll answer them next time. And I bless you. Have a great week. It is the first week in May. So right now it's pretty chilly out there, but we are getting some warm weather in a few days. So looking forward to that. But thank you so much for your attention and for your presence. And have a great week. And I'll see you next week, Friday.